What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Scythe, and today we're going to be talking about Pyrros Fard, or the Fire Drake as I like to call him. This is going to be your first hard dungeon of the entire game as soon as you end up gaining enough gear score in order to end up actually entering this, and it's going to give you a whole bunch of goodies and stuff like that. So anyways, let's hop right into it. I'm going to be telling you kind of, running through every single one of this guy's attacks, how you're going to end up dealing with them, most of all as a melee character, but obviously it's going to be easier as a range character. So that right there, if you see him kind of standing still, he's going to end up roaring up in the air, and that means he's going to end up doing that lunge attack, which he'll end up doing it again, and then otherwise he'll kind of scrape his foot against the ground, and then he just does this deja vu across the map over and over, and kind of just stands there, picks a target, as you can see with the little target reticle. And the reason why we're dying right here is because he's actually got a fire proc that's going on as he ends up dashing over you. So the dash itself isn't going to do that much damage, but he is going to end up triggering a fire effect, and that's why we ended up running down to those little fairies right there, because those guys are going to end up actually removing the effect. You can see that there's one over on the left side of the screen as well. So he's already doing his dash attack again, and I mean, pretty much he's got only a handful of abilities that you're going to have to actually watch out for. So the most annoying aspect of this guy is the fact that he's going to end up dashing around a lot. But when he ends up standing, that's when you can end up laying on the hurt, and he's only going to be able to do a handful of different attacks. Right here, you see Rars up in the air, and then he lunges forward. So long as you stay behind him, you should be good. Otherwise, that does have quite a bit of knockback. Berserkers and characters that have abilities that you prevent you from being stunned, then obviously it's going to end up being pretty good. Then otherwise he does that kind of roly-poly dog move. That is kind of like, I always just think of it like as what a dog would end up doing, right? So he's going to kind of jump, and then he just kind of rolls around on the ground, and that's going to end up causing some pretty decent damage if you end up standing in it. But again, the biggest point is you gotta try and avoid getting this dumb fire proc, because otherwise it's just gonna end up causing like tons and tons of damage to you over time. It doesn't matter who you are, dude. So sometimes he'll end up getting himself in a position like this, and he does a tail swipe. What you can do is you can grab onto him for that first initial tail swipe, and then these ones, he's gonna do a couple other ones that are gonna have a pretty good tail out or call out, and then you can just stand in this position when you're down, when he's down here. And you're going to end up dodging all of his different attacks. I'm not sure if he's going to end up breathing his fire just yet. I don't think that... Oh, there we go. Okay, we got him to breathe his fire. So that one's a fairly obvious one as well. You're going to kind of see the fire kind of go on his back and everything like that. And so long as you end up dashing out of the way when he's doing that, it shouldn't be too big of a problem. A little bit later, he's going to end up being a little bit more aggressive with his fire when he's at the final phase. You can see he's going to do that dog roll again. So I tried to dodge, but I ended up getting caught on the edge. Now that ability right there, that one's annoying because he'll end up stunning you. Pretty much the way that it works is you'll see him jump once, and then he jumps way up in the air off screen. But then as he ends up landing, not only is that going to end up causing a bit of damage, but then he's going to kind of do this weird flash attack as you ended up seeing, right? Now, initially, like the first bit of that flash, that's going to be the part that's going to stun pretty much all of you, so long as you're on the same playing field as him. And if you end up doing what I ended up doing, where, I ended up jumping to a lower level, and then just as soon as the first flash ended up going off, you can actually, like, it's safe to come right back up and start fighting him again, because he'll still be flashing, but it's not a continuous attack. So now we've got him over on this side doing his tail swipe stuff, and for the most part, you should be pretty good if you end up standing in this position. So there's going to be quite a few spots that you can end up actually dodging him. Now, another thing, too, that I really want to point out, this one even I have a bit of trouble with just because the reaction time can end up being pretty brutal. But if he's actually at the top of the screen and ends up doing that kind of jump into the air, like this one right here, the only way that you can dodge that is by grabbing the ledge, but you saw I didn't really grab it in time. So instead I ended up falling, which means I ended up taking a little bit of damage, but whatever, we ended up dodging the stun, so it's perfectly fine. I didn't end up dodging that one too well, though. But now you see he's kind of gone into the next part of him. I guess I would say it's kind of the next phase. And when he says grr, that's when he's going to do his laser. And now you see that there's all these little pockets opened on the map. You just got to jump into those when he's doing his laser, because that is just going to absolutely, I mean, prime example right there. It's just going to absolutely wreck your face unless you have like super duper good armor, or if you're a knight, you can kind of tank it, but generally you don't really want to bother with that. You just want to try and hide in the hole as soon as possible, right? It's not as obvious here You know, you kind of end up learning it, and it just becomes second nature to notice his callouts. But when we get to his final phase, he's kind of static and just in one position, so that'll be a much better example for me to be able to tell you like when he's gonna do his laser attack. But he'll kind of do this subtle thing where he kind of rocks his head back and forth a little bit, and then he'll you know, if it's not obvious enough to end up doing that, obviously he's going to actually have a text bubble on top of him that says grr. And then the sound cue is going to end up being pretty obvious as well. It's important to note too that as a Berserker, a lot of your attacks are going to end up actually attacking up a plane, which is something that's pretty unique to the character. So you could actually just be super duper lazy, super duper chill, and just kind of hang out in a hole right beside him while just using your basic, not your basic attack, but just like Void Slash or Spin to Win and stuff like that. But as you saw right there, he still is going to end up hurting you because a lot of his, you know, a lot of his hit boxes are really, really big and are kind of misleading sometimes, you know. It'll just not even seem like he's going to hit you, and then sometimes you'll just end up taking damage. So again, he's gonna pretty much just continue this until we end up getting to the 18 mil mark, and then it gets to a part that I find very exciting, if not very frustrating at the same time, and I'll kind of show you guys that in a little bit here. So there was a really good example of that twitch that he does with his head, like I was saying, where, you know that he's going to do his laser attack. Now, when he ends up getting to the 18 mil mark, that's when you got to watch, because right now he's going to dash down, and then he's going to dash up through the gate, and you can actually grab on top of him. It's not recommended that you ride him all the way, unless you end up having, like, if you have a priest with you and stuff like that, because this phase is a bit more difficult. He's going to pretty much just do a big fire attack that's going to just decimate the entire field. You got to hide over there by that little lava pit, and then you pretty much just come back over to him, cause as much damage as you can, and then just kind of keep retreating back. Now, if you have a priest, we've got all damage here, but if you have a priest, pretty much you have your whole group standing right here where I am right now. And then the priest should just be doing their job and just spamming out nonstop with their heals, and then you can actually just keep your entire group alive. Don't get too worried about like the actual damage. You can end up getting pretty close to death, but even a weak priest is going to be able to successfully keep your entire group alive. And now we've actually got him already shooting his fireballs. These are pretty self-explanatory, honestly. He's just going to target a random person and then put a little fire marker on the ground, and you just got to get out of the way in time, because otherwise if you end up getting hit by it, it's going to kind of throw you into the air, and it's generally just a really annoying ability, just because it's going to end up kind of stopping you from keeping that constant damage up for a little while, right? And once again, he's doing his fire breath, so we gotta get out of here. Another thing too to note is that as you end up getting tagged by certain fire abilities of his, it is going to end up actually causing a fire proc on you again, so a burning effect. And those fairies that we found earlier that remove the burning effect are going to end up eventually moving up to that spot that I was just dancing around 2 seconds ago. So just keep that in mind as you end up getting this guy to further phases, right? And when he does that stun attack, oh man, well, I got into the hole in time, but not before I ended up actually dodging his stun. So he's gonna do that once when he's in this area, and then you should be pretty good. Now the tail swipe is going to be a little bit different over here, because obviously you have less of a playing field when you're actually dodging these abilities. Grabbing onto him is always going to end up dodging that tail swipe, and then generally you're just going to have to like dodge from the left and right side of him very annoyingly, to kind of avoid when he ends up swiping his tail on the other sides and stuff like that, right? But pretty soon he's going to start actually using his lasers over and over again, because we're kind of hanging out in this area with like all of these spots open, and that just spells trouble, you know? So you kind of got to watch for his fire breath now. Now he's just shooting just more randomly, but thankfully he's not going to do that whole area clear fire, so you don't have to like keep hiding at the bottom of the map or anything like that. Like this is pretty much just, oh, now we can just go to town, just absolutely attack him as much as you can. And I mean, generally he's just going to end up being a little bit more sporadic with his abilities, as you can see, just kind of throwing them left and right. I want to try and get you to see when he does there's his laser attack right there. See how he twitched his head? That's pretty much the biggest call out. Eventually it'll just be like nothing. You'll recognize it right away. And when you end up getting to his like last bit of health, he's pretty much just going to be doing his laser like over and over and over again. Again, this is where like Berserkers and I think Knights have it as well, where you can just hide in the hole and cause continuous damage. And then otherwise, that's pretty much going to end up doing it for him. You're pretty much just going to have him repeat these abilities over and over and just kind of use his laser a lot more often until you end up actually defeating him. Blarg! Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, sub, hit that notification bell. And if you want to support me, you can always sponsor the YouTube channel by hitting that join button down below, buying some of my merch, which is in the description, or you can check out Gawkbox, which is in the description as well. And that's a way that you can donate to me for absolutely free by just playing phone games for a few minutes. Helps me out a lot, even if you don't do it. Thanks for watching. Hope you found the video helpful. Sayonara. Stay epic, everybody.